Now, there is actually, if you've been on the SharePoint Super User course, you may already know, or you may already be familiar with, the built-in workflow for signing off items. So if I just go into SharePoint very quickly, I'll just show you the one that I mean. So we've got Power Automate. If I want to make a new document library, and I'm just going to upload something into it. Any document that you upload into a document library, you can select, and then from the drop-down menu, you choose Request Sign Off. So this is a pre-built workflow that 365 has. It's very simple. All you have to do is put in the email address that you want. So the first thing it does is it checks all the connectors. Office 365 uses these connectors to link the different elements together to actually make a flow. You click on Create Flow. You only need to do this the first time you ever do one. And what it does is it actually builds everything for you. It's not editable at all. You can literally only put in the people in your directory. You can add a short message. And then you can click Run Flow. Now, the other thing that this does is it automatically adds the extra column that you need. So it's going to automatically make it show up as pending. And once it's actually gone off to the person to approve it, it will come back and update that to show that it's approved. So that's a really perfect little workflow all in itself that you don't need to do anything to ever. But there are drawbacks with that. You can only use it on the document library. You can't get it to go to a group mailbox. You can't get it to add any elements, any further tasks once you've got that approval. And it's not actually capturing the same information as to who approved it and when in the same list or library fields. So sometimes that's not enough for people. And I do find that in business practices, approvals tend to be one of the most commonly used processes in document management systems. So let me just move on to the next type of approval. If you want to do a more advanced approval, you have to build it yourself and you have to build it in Power Automate. To start with, it can seem quite daunting, but it's actually fairly easy. I'm just going to go and open Power Automate. I prefer to do it from Power Automate directly as opposed to doing it from the site. You will also find that once you've opened Power Automate and click on Create, that you actually have a lot of templates that you can search through. So if you want to have a look at the templates, you'll see that there's an awful lot of stuff that Flow can do, and you just need to do some searches to find something to make a starting point. For my purposes, I only ever do automated cloud flows, instant cloud flows, or scheduled cloud flows, and I do them from blank because that's just the way I'm used to working, and that's the way I learned how to work it. So for an automated cloud flow, this is the kind of flow that's actually route a document or a list item for approval without you having to physically select anything from the menus. So this one I'm going to call training approval. I also need to select a trigger when an item is created. When an item is created is the trigger that you need for list items. When a document or a file is created is what you need when you're working with documents in document libraries. So I'm just going to click create. And what you come up with is a completely blank screen, except for the very first step at the top. So it's basically self-explanatory. It wants a site and it wants a list name. So I can go and get those very easily. I want this site. I'm just going to copy and paste it in there. Oh, it's already in the drop-down list. That makes it even easier. And then I'm going to choose the list. I'm going to choose training requests. So at this point, all I need to do is add my next step. Now my next step, this is a start and wait for approval step. So I actually start typing, start and wait. And what happens is the correct operation, once my machine stops whirring, appears at the top of the list. I want start and wait for an approval. So now all I have to do is fill in these fields. I have to decide what kind of approval I want. First to respond, if I'm sending to lots of people. Everyone must approve is another option. And you've also got custom responses. I'll come back to those later. So I'm just going to choose first to respond. And now I just need to fill in some information. It wants a title. This is the title that's going to go with the approval. So you want something obvious like, please approve this request for training. Assigned to, I need to put in an email address. So I'm just going to choose Tom because that's the admin that I'm logged in as. But I could put multiple people. Details. This is the text of the email, the information that you're going to get. Now I'm going to put this title in again. And maybe I'll put some more information. Requested by. Now here automatically pops up at any point where it's relevant is dynamic content. This is where you can add information from that list item directly into your approval. So if I scroll through here, you can see maybe I'll have created by, requested by. I'm going to have requested by the display name. Such and such a date, perhaps. Or maybe requested by is fine on its own, but maybe I'll put some more information about the description or the title or the provider. I'll put provider. Requested by so-and-so. Now, item link. This is very important. You can only ever use the correct link. The link is going to be in dynamic content. If you can't find it, start typing it in this box where it says search dynamic content. And I want this link, link to item. That means that when you get the approval email, you'll be able to click on that item and see it. Description, this is optional, and I'm just going to use the title. So that's my start and wait for an approval. But I still need to build in the next steps, and that is what happens once that approval has been actioned. At this point, I need to use a condition. For my condition, I want to judge what happens based on the outcome of this approval, where the outcome is equal to approve. Please note, it's not approved with a D on the end, it's always approve. So your action might be, if it's approved, maybe you will send an email. So I start typing.
Hello.
Send email.
Oh.
Sorry, if it's okay, if everybody can have their mics switched off. Thank you. Sorry, Lorna, off you go.
Okay. So where outcome is equal to approve, I want to do some more steps. So I want to send an email. I'm going to start typing send email. There's actually quite a few options. I don't know why. Don't ask me to judge. Don't judge me. I just stick with the one that I know, which is send an email version 2. And again, I'm just going to use myself so that I can look at it in Outlook in a minute. Subject. I'm going to put training test approved. Now, obviously, you might be sending this email to anyone. You might be sending it back to the person that created the item or their manager or both. When you're putting in multiple emails, always separate them with a colon, or is it semicolon? I can never remember, Sharon. The dot and the comma, that one. Add dynamic content because I want to put it in their manager email. Add another semicolon and created by email. I want to email all of these people to say the training request was approved.
To let you know, Lorna,
I'm also going to add in that link to item again.
Just to let you know, Lorna, it's a semicolon, yes. We've been told. Sonia and Sarah, thank you very much. There you go. We all learn.
So, link to item. So I'm going to put that in the email as well. So it's going to go to all 3 people. Make sure that semicolon is in there. Sometimes it doesn't put it in the right place. But what else do I want to do? Maybe I want to update that list with information about who approved it and when it was approved. So I'm going to just start typing update item. There we go. It's a SharePoint action, update item. Again, it wants me to re-enter the site address and the list. But it also wants me to add in the unique identifier. Now, I already know which ID it is because it's when the item is created and it's this ID. There's only one to pick from. I also have to fill in the title, even though it already exists, because it's a mandatory field. Title, when an item is created, because we're not updating the title, we're just keeping it the same. Description, all of these fields are staying the same. Approval status. Now, point to note here, when you are building your flows, you have to make sure that the fields you want in your list to update are already built in the list. Otherwise, when you're here, you won't see them. So I've put them in already. Have a think about the fields that you want. I want approval status, for example. And I want manager comments. So that's to attach any comments that the manager adds. So I've already got my fields built. They're fine. They're ready to go and I can see them. What I want to do is I want to update this item to say it's now approved. And I want the manager comments to come from the approval itself. So in the dynamic content, under this approval section, I've got response summary, outcome. If I scroll down a bit further, I've got responses, comments. Now, if I wanted to, I can add two fields together. So I could put in the manager comments. Don't worry about the apply to each. It automatically adds them where they're needed from a point of logic. Manager comments, and I might add by approver name. It's not really necessary because in this particular flow, it's only going to one person, the manager, for approval. But just to show you that you can add several bits of information all in one go. So that's the update item. Now, if I was building out the flow completely, I would also copy this to here and have a similar kind of chain of events where the condition outcome was equal to reject. I'm not going to do that here because I want to save myself some time. What I'm going to do now is click on save. And now I'm going to run a test. So I'm going to test it. I'm going to test it manually. All it wants me to do to test it, it says up here, add a new list item to test it. So I'll go to my training request lists and I will add my new list item. So my course starts tomorrow. This is the provider. This is the venue. And this is my manager. Now I'm actually going to add myself as manager so that I get the email. Approval status is automatically set to pending because that's already been added as the default. If I was using Power Apps, I'd actually hide these two fields anyway because I don't want them on the new form. But that's a topic for another day. I'm going to click save. Now, if I run through over to the Power Automate window, you'll see it's starting to work through the approval. Okay, so it says start, it's moved on to this section here and there's a little time icon. That means that it has to wait. It's the wait bit that it's on, starting and waiting. So in theory, it has already sent the approval and it's now waiting for Tom, that is me, to go and sort it out. If I go into Outlook, I should have one in there. So this is the particular request. Please approve this request for training. Nope, where's it gone? There we go. Here's the link to look at the item. And then I've got approve or reject. If I click on Excel Advanced, it actually brings up the list item that I was looking at so I can see all the details. There we go. And I'm looking at that. I'm going to approve it. Before I finish, I have to add comments and submit. Actually, the comments are optional, but even though you've clicked approve or reject, you have to click submit always. My comments are going to be and submit. Now, one of the things I particularly like about approval workflows is it actually tells you. So I can now see that's done. I won't actually accidentally keep trying to do the same work over and over again. And if it goes to various people with the first person to approve, then they can all see it's already been actioned. And as fast as lightning, I've also got my other email saying it was approved. This is the link to the item. Now, I just didn't format it as a hyperlink, so it looks ugly, but there you go. Training request approved. Absolutely super. Fast as lightning. I was really pleased with that. I'm just going to go and go back to here. You can see it all ran successfully. If there was a problem, it would say so. Now, you can customize the options further. You can add as many different tasks afterwards. For example, after your approval, you might need to then route it to a different department for action, or you might need to route it to a higher level of approval, and so on. So anything where you've got something complicated going on rather than just a simple sign off, then this is the type of approval that you need. Now, the next type of approval is very similar. This send email with options is something you specifically need to use if you are sending to a group. And when I say a group, I mean a group mailbox. So instead of having 3 different people in that email, you're actually sending to a specific group mailbox that a whole team share and log into. Now, the reason for that being different is because, let me just go and turn this off quickly. Start and wait for an approval cannot operate with a group mailbox at all. But there is a workaround for that. So I'm just going to go back to create, and I'm going to do automated cloud flow. When an item is created, create. So we're starting from the beginning again. So I shall whiz through this bit. Power automate, training requests, new step. Now this is the bit that's different. Because I cannot use an approval with a group mailbox, I have to use something called send email with options, which works in a slightly similar way, but it's not exactly the same. I choose send email with options, and it starts off with an email address. Now, the difficulty here is we don't have any group mailboxes on our environment. So again, I am just going to use Tom. Subject. Please give you training request. It'd help if I could spell. And then you've got to put in your 3 choices. So I can have approve, reject. I don't actually want a 3rd choice, so I'm going to leave it like that. So it's much more basic, but I can still get it to work in almost the same way. So my next step is going to be a condition. Oops. Let me just have a look at the advanced options. Header text, that's a bit better. That's what I wanted. Header text. Please review this. Training request. View the item, then click on approve or reject. You can just keep putting as much of this stuff in as you like. But once you've finished, click on new step and you're adding your condition. So this time I don't have outcome. Because it's a send email with options, what I have a choice of is selected option. If selected option is equal to approve, then I'm going to send my email. I'm going to just send it to the same people. Manager email, created by email. Training request, approved. Just putting in sort of placeholder text at this point. And then update item. Now there's another difference here as well, because when you actually go to update the list item, Power Automate, training requests, ID. Now I need to put in the title. I can change that to approved, but when it comes to any other information, there is no comments field. I don't have any information here that I can use that's useful. So if you have got a group mailbox and you're using this option to fudge an approval workflow, it will not tell you who on that group mailbox did the approval. It's literally just going to give you the basic outcome, the selected option. So you don't need to put anything in there, but that's it. That's pretty much all you can do. And again, in a real world scenario, I would be adding what else I wanted to happen if it was rejected instead. I would also be prettying up all of the hyperlinks and putting them in. I'm not going to do that today because it actually takes quite a bit of time. And I'm going to do another test. So I have certainly come across, the reason I put this in as part of the webinar, I've absolutely come across this as an example where I absolutely had to do it this way. We're quite heavy users of group mailboxes where I work. And sometimes there's just nothing else for it. You just have to work with what you've got. So that flow is now running through its test. I always do test when I'm building workflows because it actually runs it a lot quicker than if I just added something to my training request list. I'd probably have to wait 5 minutes for it to start thinking about, oh, something's appeared, I'm going to run my workflow. It always feels like 5 minutes anyway when you're doing a demo. So my email has already come in. Please review this training request. It doesn't even look hugely different. It's not quite so tidy. You can see that third option is just like a blank hole. I definitely put in the writing more times than was absolutely necessary, but I can go back and take those out. I'm going to click approve. And it's thinking about it. It's coming up with a little error actually here. But I don't want to waste any more time on this one because I want to move on to the other bits. That's fine. It was just being a bit slow. So there we go, training request approved. That's literally just my placeholder email. So it should have gone and updated the list now. Just going to get rid of those. I want to turn that off. The reason I want to turn it off every time I've finished building it is that I don't want 3 or 4 workflows all running on the same list all at the same time, because it just gets really annoying. So I'm just going to click turn off. And when I finish with my training, I can just go through and delete them all. So if I go and hit refresh, you can see they've already come up as being approved and all the information is in there. So that's the other option for approvals. I have to say approvals is absolutely the most used workflow I ever have to build at work in any situation that I've been in. But my most common type is where I actually have to look up the approver from another list. Now this is very, very easy in SharePoint Designer. Unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult in Flow, but once you've learned the syntax for how to do it and the steps for how to do it, you just keep them and you reuse them and you reuse them. So let me go back to my list. So if I was adding department, let me just edit that quickly. Have I even got department on here? No, I haven't. That's not very helpful, is it? Oh no, it's down the bottom. Right down the bottom. There we go. IT, HR, etc., etc. So that department has basically got a different approver. On this list over here, I have got my departments list. And I have got my department head. So that is who needs to sign off that training request for that department. And what my training request needs to do is to look up the department when I input it and send the approval to the correct person. So going back to Power Automate, it's done in a slightly different way, which looks really scary the first time you see it. But when you get used to it and you get used to the syntax, you can do it over and over again. And this is absolutely my most used one ever. So I'm going to go back to the standard, which is create. My automated cloud flow. When an item is created, create. So choose your site, choose your list. That's the first step. The next step is actually to go and get that lookup information. And the step that I need for this is called get items. Sorry, my computer's decided to go ever so slightly slow. So I need to tell it again where the items are. It's here. The list name is called departments. I now need to expand here. And where it says filter, I need to write a filter. And the filter is going to be where the title equals department. The title of the, no, where department head. No, where the title equals department in the other list. Always get it the right way round. This title equals this department. So I'm literally just typing title. EQ stands for equals. And then I'm going to choose department. Except I'm not going to choose department. I'm going to put it inside single quotes, and I'm going to choose department value because it's a lookup drop down. That's my get items. That's my first bit. Next step, I need a compose data step. Start typing in compose. It gives me compose as a data operation. Now, again, this is one where you just have to know the syntax. Instead of dynamic content, I switch over to expression. And in expression, I start typing in this box. And it's first, open brackets, outputs, single quotes. Actually, this is the bit where I just go and copy and paste it in, because otherwise it could take forever. Inside that single quotes, I put the name of this step above. Get underscore items. If there's a space, you always use underscore. Question mark. Open square bracket. Single quote. Close square brackets. You can see why I don't like doing it. It's a complete nightmare every time. What I tend to do, oops, cancel, I don't want to leave. Let me go into my other flows. I frequently just copy and paste it. I copy and paste it from wherever I keep it. In this case, this is get items, question mark, body, value, department head. Department head being the column I want returned from department, this one here. That's the worst bit over. Absolutely, 100%. That's the worst bit. The next step is a resolve person. Pick your site. Pick departments, where I'm looking up from again. The column that I want. And then email. Again, this is another one where I need some syntax. I click on the expression and I want outputs from compose, and I want the email. So it's outputs, open brackets, single quotes, compose, close brackets, question marks, square brackets, single quotes, email, close brackets. And I click OK and it puts it into there. That is the incredibly, horribly painful way that you do a lookup of a person from another list, which I have to do literally every approval I ever build in my current job. So I hate it, but I just do it. And once it's done and it's working, it's all good. Now you just go straight for the approval. Exactly the same as the approval where we did before, but this time you're using the email from Resolve Person. You're creating a title, you're assigning it to Resolve Person email, and you're adding in all the rest of that information. Now, when it comes to link to item, you can see it's brought up one under here, get items, plus one under here. Don't forget, it's always the one that you created that you want to link to, and the same for title. Sometimes you've got a choice of more than one field, so you have to check that you're in the right area for the right fields. And then you just do your condition, you do your outcome, and so on. Now, this is all probably going to go horribly wrong. Please don't go horribly wrong. I'd have to spend ages fiddling around with it, getting it to work. But I'm hoping that it will all go today. Anyway, we don't have time for it not to work. Okay, let's save that. Test manually. This time I go back to training requests. So, here's my course. Here's my provider, venue, manager, department. This time it should be sending it to the HR manager. Click save. Fingers crossed. Start and wait for an approval. Oops, wrong one. I want Outlook. So it says it's been through it. It's got the items. It's got Tom. It's resolved the email address. And here is the approval request. Woohoo! Worked first time. I'm so happy. Now, one of the things that I can send out afterwards, along with all of the other bits that we any answers to questions that we haven't had time for to cover. One of the things that I would like to send out along with the feedback form and, as I say, the answers to any further questions is the syntax for that, for all of those 3 steps, because they are so difficult to remember unless you are a programmer, which I'm not. So, other considerations, you can name your steps. It makes it a lot easier when you are doing this. If you've got a whole chain of approvals with lots of different people, you can name them. So if I click on the 3 dots here, start and wait for an approval, I can change that to start and wait for an approval from department head, for example. And resolve person, I could change that to something that's meaningful, like get email. And get items could be, I could just make it make sense to me. Look up department head, for example. So these 3 dots have got lots of extra things. If you're using the same step over and over again, you can copy it to your clipboard. And then when you click on add an action, you can ping it from your clipboard straight into your workflow, which makes it really quick and easy. I love that bit. The other thing that I use is run after. Configure run after. I suppose the main problem with audit trails in 365 is that, unlike with SharePoint Designer, where you could see instantly in your list or your document library, you could see if a flow failed and you could go and fix it. However, you can't see that. You have to go into Power Automate and you have to go into your approval center or your flow monitor to see what's happening. So flow monitor is down here, which just shows you all the flows, but it's not very helpful. If I click on it, it's just like something failed. But you can't see from the screen which one failed. And if you've got hundreds of workflows running every day, it's a complete nightmare trying to track down what's failed and where. So one of the things that you can do is add a configure run after. So if I add it to here, for example, no, I can't do it there for some reason. I think I will need to do it elsewhere. On one of these, for example, would work better. Again, this is an easy one to look up in Google anyway. One of my big problems with workflow approvals for documents is when the approver keeps the document open and then hits approve, or if Microsoft thinks they still have the document open and then they hit approve. When it gets to this step, update item or update file properties, it thinks it can't update it because it's locked for editing. That is my most common problem. My way around it at the moment is to do a configure run after. So if that update item fails, I get it to send an email to me immediately. And not just sending an email, but sending me all the details that I need to go and find that item that failed and go and fix it. Sometimes it's just a case of rerunning something. So because send an email is after update item, what I do is the configure run after. So that send an email should run after if that step has failed. That's what I'm telling it to do. So the configure run after goes on here to make this bit run if it fails. So that's always a possibility. Right, have we got any questions, Sharon? I'm now really run over time. I'm so sorry.
No, but it's all learning there. I'm still learning as well myself, so it's absolutely fine. But no, I can't see any questions there, guys. Anybody want to unmute and ask any questions or write it in the chat at all? Doesn't look like it. Oh, was somebody going to speak then?
Yeah, Sharon, it's just me. I'm just wondering, are there any courses on Power Automate that you run?
We are looking to run some, depending on the amount of interest.
Question. Yeah, good question. So we are, like as she says there, Lorna says there, I've got a little thing that I'm just adding into the chat for you all here. We've had a few people come to us and say that there's nothing out there from the records management, information management and privacy side. Can we do something? So yes, we are happy to. So I've just put there in the chat a link and a QR code if you are interested in a course on this that goes into more in-depth information, then please do register your interest. For anybody that's already been on a course, as you know, they're very interactive. You will get access to our trainer environment like the one there that Lorna was using, so you get to practice as you learn, have a play. Yeah, we find them very, very useful for people, that the fact that they don't just learn, they're actually playing as they go and embedding that knowledge to be able to take it away and make that difference back in the business. So yeah, please do register your interest. Just very quickly for everybody, Lorna, if you can just switch slides there. I have sent out to all of you guys that have attended a feedback form. We do love feedback. We want to know what you liked, anything more that you want information on, anything we can do differently. So please do fill those out. If for any reason you haven't received them, then do please use the QR code there, snap that and fill that out. This call is, as you know, recorded, so by all means, when it gets put out there to you for the recording, if you haven't got time to snap away at it now, then do that on the recording. That's absolutely fine. But we do have our current super user course that's available at the moment that has some of the Power Automate information in there, which we're happy to progress on and expand. If it's what you guys need, we're happy to amend that. But if any of you have learned a lot today, then please do show a raise of hands, do a little reaction. There will be good to see how many people have enjoyed today and that they have learned, which is great. Yet some applauses there, Lorna, so thank you very much. But if you want to learn even more, then please do jump on our courses. Lorna is one of our gurus that facilitates these courses as well as others. So we've got some dates here as well for our super user course there, and we do have our other webinars which Lorna was showing there as well. So we do kind of a series of webinars for Microsoft in general, and it's all based on what you tell us you're wanting. So please do give us that feedback. If there's an area that you find is an issue at the moment, let us know and we'll put something on. And just to let you know, one of our newest courses that we've got out there is our Microsoft Syntax course. So we've had a lot of feedback again, saying with AI and everything that's happening at the moment, is there things that they can learn a bit more utilising AI and things with SharePoint? So that's something that we've put together for you guys. So it is out there. So once again, if it's something you're looking for, please do let us know. And obviously join us. By all means, please follow us through our marketing list or even on LinkedIn. We're always looking for your feedback. We're always looking to put information out there, little things, blogs that you might want to read about. Anything that we're doing, discounts, offers on our courses, and what's the upcoming trends and what's happening next. So thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate, for some of you, it's the end of the day and you want to go. Some of you, it's the beginning of the day and you're ready to do your day's job. So thank you very much for joining us. If you need to contact us for anything, then it's all up on the screen there for you. Please contact away. So thank you very much, Lorna, for your time. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Bye.